Hello everyone. Good morning. Welcome back to another my morning painting sessions. And I feel like today is going to be a very special one because this this painting was inspired by my little nephew. It's becoming one of my main inspirations lately. So I really wanted to paint him for his essence today and see how it all comes out. Just gonna laying a few of my colors down first before we get started. One more. So what I'm doing is I'm going to start layering some of I think this time I'll probably layer the shadows first to get a bit of an outline of where I'm going to be painting. So I'm going to go with a very neutral dark color. Nothing too sharp, um, nothing too dark. That's the key. Here we go. First, I brought some of my tea with me this morning. I can't wake up and welcome the new day without a cup of tea in hand. Sometimes what helps me is to almost like squint my eyes, just kind of disregard a lot of the details and just kind of go straight to the shapes. And that's what I tend to do in a lot of my beginning layers of painting. really is getting me up this morning is the excitement of painting this day. Because what purest form in this world is the most pure than hearing a child's laugh, seeing them sleep. It's just to me like the most utter perfection that God has created. And I think what a miracle. And sometimes we forget those miracles. They become the biggest for us in our lifetime when we look back. So I want to create this painting. It's a little reminder how time passes by really quick, but we can just savor those moments. I'm kind of going in with a darker color to do a very generic line, and then I'm going to really soften it and make it all cloud-like. Really want to keep the pastel colors. I've done a really thin layer of underpainting gesso before layering first acrylics. So I feel like definitely needs that first layer to get protection before seeping in directly onto the canvas. Yeah, still playing around with a lot of the pastel darker colors just to get the first layers of hues. Because depending on what I'm going to be laying down depends on almost like the emotion or like um, that environment, whether it's warm light, dark light, whether it's outside, inside. The first layers of colors kind of immediately put me into this zone. environment. Thank you all for joining me today on this beautiful morning. A lot of things transpired since the last time I was able to do a live stream painting session. So thank you all for waiting so patiently. So right now I'm kind of like layering the middle hue colors just so I can blend just a little bit of the dark ones. There's no set of rules or anything like that. I'm just layering the first layer. And sometimes the style will come to me midway, um, depending on the paintings trying to be represented. Just soft colors. That's what I'm feeling right now. Nothing harsh. Go in with some lighter colors. What's this? So I I'm very curious. Whoever is up with me this morning, um, have you have you guys ever tried to depict something from your everyday life and make that as your inspiration for your creative works? Because that is something that not only has my my family, but the people that I've met through my shows and through all of my travels around the world, they've all been a part of my inspirations for paintings. Not only are my visions and dreams a huge part of them, but they are a part of the puzzle. And I think that, in my opinion, being able to um, capture and remember and almost like gather all these inspirations from your moments of your days and nights. I think if you're able to do that, um, the, everything is, limitless. Like anything is possible. And I think there's so much that we can learn, so much that we can um, inspire others just from our very ordinary everyday life. And I think that showcases the simple beauty turns to be a priceless one. And and this is one of the inspirations for my everyday life that popped up very unexpectedly and became one of my most precious memories, precious gifts. of want to showcase a little bit more of the depth of the grooves on the lips and on the nose and parts of the eye. I think that would be a good way to define some of the features, the cute little features. I think the more that I'm adding some of the definitions of the very more of like the deep indents, I had this epiphany that maybe around like mid process of painting, I'm going to use my, feel like I want to use some of my brushes to create very fluid, very dreamlike strokes. And I don't know, I'm gonna see if I can give that a try. But first, I have to tune the shapes and the layers and the colors first. That's the key in my opinion for this painting. Eyes, blue eyes. As you can tell, sometimes I'm like kind of carrying my face towards the other side because it's easier for me to see the proportions. Some people don't know about this, but one of a very good teaching marker for me that helped me is using using a mirror, because what that does is that it actually trains the eye to see and judge and critique your work with your own new pair of eyes. And that truly allows your ability to, it trains your ability to see your work with a new pair of eyes. And I think sometimes when we look at our paintings too long, it really blends and colors um, the it blends the mistakes and the flaws and also the good parts too easily. So we have to find ways to really um, find ways to find those flaws so we can correct them. And when you have somebody in your family or somebody you trust, they're not always readily available to give you suggestions or opinions or a new pair of eyes. So we have to do it ourselves. And that's how I have learned over the years to um, really rely on your own pair of eyes, and also train a new pair of eyes that's also yours. Because at the end of the day, it it's very good to truly see your work and step away from your work with without all the emotions and with all the memories and baggage. And if you can step away from it and see it as if it's the first time, somebody else's work, then you're able to pick up some cues, pick up some hints that you would not have done before. So I think that is an important suggestion that I highly recommend to do. It's really hard, but I think it's important. It's more titanium white. I I go through white so much, and it is a very, very important color in every one of my paintings. It's really building the structure and giving the vibe and color and emotion. It takes it's always a process. You have to trust it. Interesting. I've noticed that a lot of artists, I tend to not really um, actively search out for other artists and their works because I mainly like to focus on my own. But if I happen to do so, I have noticed that the process that some of they do is very, very uh, meticulous and slow in the beginning. And it all depends on style and, the subject that is being painted. I have noticed that there is a pattern that I do, and might be slightly unconventional, but I do tend to do a little bit more quicker, like almost like a sketch with colors in the very beginning, because for me, if I think about it too much, and if I'm in this little area of the canvas, it will restrict me to that particular area and not the big picture. So it, for me, it works to very, I wouldn't say swiftly, but continuously to put and layer down colors, because the moment you pause or too much to think about a single area, it would restrict you or limit you. So that's where there's just like some of the things that I have learned over the years is that what helped me. It all is artist to artist. We're all different, but this is something that helps me is to swiftly layer some of the main colors and shapes, and then I will start building from there. And then I will go into a very, very, very meticulous um, zone where I can spend hundreds of hours on a square inch, if I may add. So I definitely know that I am able to truly zone in, but the fun part is to lay down all the layers so effortlessly and easily without any particular need for perfection. told you all that one of my um, number one paints that I use is titanium white, and I might have run out of it. So I'm gonna go quickly and get a new one. Thank goodness I have an enormous tube from Michael Tips. I want to create the first layers of the outside. Just a touch of blue as well. Somewhere. Touch. Not too much. One. I've probably gone through the quarter of a tube already. It's all good. It's a great mixing base as well, especially if you're aiming for a lighter palette, pretty much. I'm using the lighter color on the skin right now. Small. Slowly building up on the face with some of the lighter color. Oops. I'm making it like just a tad bit so I can see where all the edges are. Um, with a good loose layer. Try to split my eyes as much as I can. Darker one. Once more. More darker shadows before I do a really soft blend. Because after I do the darker shadows and the highlights, I'm going to take a nice, like really fluffy brush and kind of like haze it all out and then start building afterwards. I want to add some of those little cute little puff puffy skin arms. A little bit more of the highlights. Just, this whole entire time, if you've noticed that I've kind of only been using one single brush. It's actually one of my favorites. It's becoming my favorites because I've used this type of style for so many years and I've liked it so much that I made my own um, made my own version of it. And actually it's part of my selected customized brush set. I just really feel like its bristles are like dancing and it's just so soft. Right? I think right about now what I'm gonna be doing. Let's see what kind of brush should I do here. Maybe I'll do this one. So I kind of use this very very simple, nice rounded brush and kind of brush it out just a little bit. Nice and soft. Of course, most of the painting is pretty much dried out by now, but it is all good, all okay. No one tells you what a bit of a workout it actually is. Twirling all the paints of the brush. There were times where I legitimately felt like it was more exhausting doing this than push-ups. It was definitely worked out if you're consistent with your twirls. I have an idea in the middle of that process. What I'm going to do is before I start coating with a nice layer of overcoat and all the really nice warm style, I'm gonna go in and start blending a little bit more of the eyes, a little more lips and nose, and then we'll start doing the fun stuff afterwards. So you've noticed it's kind of easier for me to tilt my head while looking at the baby. So it's gives me like a different perspective if I look at it head on. If I go towards the direction of the head, it seems like it's just a lot easier for me to gauge the proportions. So that's why I'm tilting my head like this. I might stand up actually in the and soon just so I can see from the face from above. I always tend to move around whilst painting because if I'm too much stationary, I'm too zoned in, it just won't work in a long run because, you know, then the portions will start to blend, and if you have to alter it, it just delays the process. So by moving constantly, it allows me to be confident in the the areas that I'm working on. Smoothing out some of the edges already with these two brushes. This would really help me allow to soften up the lines. Sometimes I tend to rub the paint on my hands so I can just dry it out to get a really good thin layer on the brush. It allows me to do some really neat blending techniques. Because if it's too wet, it it won't do the blending super justice for this particular area. And got the right little button nose. It's really, it's like, I can't really describe it. It's like every little shadow, every every little light source makes the definition of the nose. And you don't want it sharp, you don't want it pointy. It's just, it has to be playing with those soft colors. If it's too dark, if it's too light, it automatically um, resembles an adult feature on the of from the nose, and I don't want that. So I'm trying to play around with the colors right now, very softly, very subtly, to get that cute little nose. There is one painting of mine that I believe it's on my YouTube page still. Uh, it was a painting titled Wonder, and that painting was inspired by my little brother Aurelius when he was just born, and I believe there was a documentary crew that came to the house and they were able to capture that moment that I was just finishing painting. And my little brother was still on my mom's hips and he was modeling for me. And he had this light about him, this wonder that I wanted to capture so bad. And it took a process. It took almost over 100 some hours to complete. I was 13 at the time, going on 14. I remember there were butterflies in the background, and I changed the color of the butterflies last minute because it resembled too closely to his eyes, and I wanted his eyes to almost be the center of the gaze. And that's why I changed the butterfly from blue to a very orange yellow color. So that was a little snippet of my other inspiration behind the scenes. And utilizing this brush to really do its magic. It both layers the paint down and also blends at the same time. Sometimes I would forget the second brush that's in my hand because I love this brush so much, but I will use it very soon. And she's definitely going through a marathon with one hand. Definitely uh, use this brush. There are actually very few brushes that I have today is still with me after so many years. Like not a lot of brushes are able to make it for a long period of time because I tend to really use the brushes to its full capacity and whatever it may be. And sometimes I last only one painting. Very few last many years. So, and those brushes that have lasted for many years are hold so much so many memories. There are a few that I've kept, I think since I was 8, 9 years old. Most of the time, if I like a brush and I've used it to its capacity, then I would just re repurchase the same brush, because I know that what it's capable of doing. I can never spell this word, quinacridone, crimson. It's a very tricky word, but one of my favorites because it has a particular particular hue to it that can be altered to a pink, to a red, to a magenta, to a purple. It's a very versatile color. And those cheeks that are quite pinky, rosy. How it doesn't show too much on the camera, but it's very warm color. going back on some of the darker, darker ones, darker colors, kind of bringing them in just a little bit, especially around the tummy and the arm. Definitely trying to blend that too, all at the same time. Because these are acrylics and they're very known for drying out quickly. But because I'm just so used to it, I kind of have like a little clock that is in my head that almost the best way I can describe it is like I feel when it starts drying and when it starts um still wet or anything like that. Whether it's the temperature of the room, the way that you know, the way my hand is moving, everything plays into the equation. It just I tend to unconsciously feel like right about now it's about to start drying or I still have time. It's a very unusual way for me to like explain it, but I do feel when I'm supposed to blend and when it's about dry almost most of the time. Sometimes when I do miss it or miscalculate, it's for the best. And it's a sign for me to rethink another step or add another layer. So it's just so much fun working with acrylics. It's not the number one favorite for a lot of artists because it's drying so quick. But if you're able to master or at least be knowledgeable in acrylics, then all the other paints will fall into place. And I think that, in my opinion, it's a great starting medium. Oils is quite tricky in the regard that it's very slow drawing time and also felt there's just so much more involved in maintaining the the oils, blending the oils and washing the oils from the brushes, and there's just so much more involved. Watercolors, they have a mind of its own. That definitely, if you're wanting to go on a wild ride, but peacefully, that looks peaceful, definitely use watercolors because they always have a mind of its own. Even if you're able to really have everything thought out to the T, one extra little drop of more hue or the way that the movement was too slow when you laid it on the paper, like everything would be enhanced like 100%. It's a very it's very wild medium, but it feels so peaceful after you paint it. That's how I feel. It looks peaceful, but it's wild. That's the beauty of it. I kind of have to bring back this brush. It's about to dry, so I had more of the wet paint on it. Just getting the shape of the ear right. This is like a pastel colored painting. I have never used black yet, but this is I usually do, even if there are very light colored paintings, I usually use black. But for this one, it's not really that necessary. So that's why I'm using like burnt umber, some parts of the crimson, and some yellows just to create it. And it's quite easy actually to create a very, very, very dark color without using black. No one even talks about this that much, but a lot of I heard, I don't know if it was accurate, but I heard from my friend that she mentioned that it was, uh, especially in the school that she was being taught, that trying to not use black is it's very, very welcomed. Like they always like to teach others not to use the Mars black, ivory black in their painting classes. But and it depends on, for my opinion, it depends on what you're painting really. Like I think black can be a very, very great tool to enhance some of the colors that and a lot of the dramatic feel, a lot of the contrasts. There's plenty of ways to use black. You don't have to use its entire spectrum of the color, but I think there are ways that it really enhances the painting. But it it's artist. It really varies what works best for you. And I found out that works very well for me and a lot of my paintings. So that. I'm subtly going to add a little bit of the eyelashes and see how they work. Just do it very gently. Like the little partition on the mouth. Kind of wanting this paint to dry very soon, so I can do a nice coat of a warm haze, as if it's like a veil on top, maybe. Kind of like working my way up in those little areas, so the main areas can dry, and then I can do them. That's why I'm not using a lot of heavy paints right now. It's just very dry paints, almost like I'm able to like brush it very slightly on my hand and then won't leave any residue. You might have noticed me throughout the process. I might have been using my hands. I don't have my paper towel on me, so I'm just gonna be using my hands. This back of water. Need that right now. Earlobe. Seems right. I want to add some peachy tones and little colors to the ears. So just like how when the sun is hitting your skin, it just feels like parts of the skin is being like translucent underneath, and it gives that um, alive feel. So that's what I'm gonna be doing. So I'm gonna just add a touch of a particular color. Hopefully, come out just like that. I can't do it throughout the whole ear. It has to be like parts because it it won't give that real effect. It's the balance. That's the key. Trying to find that Perfect balance. Little areas, kind of important to really make it right underneath the earlobe. Actually, I'm kind of curious in the chat, what would you recommend the title to be, knowing the painting is going to be a dreaming baby? I would love to hear your thoughts on some of the ideas you all would recommend. I have a few ideas, but definitely want to hear your thoughts. If I can get to everyone's suggestions. Angel's a good one. I really like that. Baby angel. I like that. Aren't all little babies all angels, like angels on earth? Or for sure, they gives us so much hope, so much inspiration to be the best we can be. And they guide us in so many ways we least expect. And they push us and challenge us. So maybe Angel is a good suggestion. Dreaming peaches. I like that. Definitely the colors that I'm using has a very peachy tone. Color. I'm moving my head once more just so I can get a great angle on painting. Sometimes the light will hit it off and without the glare. I'm lifting up the canvas so I can see just a tad bit more. So I'm gonna a better angle without the glare. You can see where I'm painting just a little bit. With adding a little bit of the eyelids. I always forget the English word for it. I know the Lithuanian word for it, but sometimes I mix some of my languages together. Just subtle hints really make up the painting in the long run. Just a little bit more highlights in the nose. Just a little bit more on the lips. So very subtle, very little subtle smile on the end. Something that is probably above everything, the most contagious is a baby's laugh, and it's the way that they bring smiles to everyone. Just gonna add that in the painting. The painting is going to be a very soft look. So there's no, any harsh details or anything like that. So I'm going to be just a little bit details underneath the wash that I'm going to be doing. soft hair. And get a bigger brush, add a little bit more white. And kind of do a preliminary layer of very soft environment. So I'm kind of gonna go with a warmer color. Give some texture. I like to pounce on the canvas to get a really nice um, fluffy pink blanket cloud. It's really fun doing. I go around to the canvas, same movement. So lightly, I'm gonna go really close to the face. Just around the edges. Please try not to stop in the middle of the process of whirling. Let's really try out. I'm using the same brush to get some contrasting that right on the skin. It becomes quite soft. So that is the goal. Very soft and dewy. Just glistening, beautiful. Making sure everything's blended. This is I really like that. If it sounds rough, don't worry about it. It's just I'm going against the canvas softly, but um, a lot of times it will sound very rough, but it's not. I'm just listening over it very gently. Choosing right now, like the lightest areas, maybe a cloud blanket. Don't want to go everywhere with it, but just enough. But I'm going to put more on the back. One of them. water. I still want to make this painting feel like a painting, if that makes any sense. Uh, there's certain styles that could be like hyperrealism, there's surrealism, impressionism, abstract. There's just so many styles. I completely lost track of it. But I'm the repertoire that I have tried to challenge myself are all sorts of styles, and so much so that I've almost created my own style. It's called Akianism, and it's the only way for me to encapsulate all the things that I like painting, all the styles. And sometimes the styles that I do have no name at all. But I do know that this painting I feel requires the essence of brushstrokes, and as if it's nothing's hyper realistic, just still in that dreamlike state. And to achieve that look, that's the reason why I'm not going into a hyperrealism, because that, number one, would take me a few hundred hours, and but number two, it's not necessary for this one. That's why I'm kind of going with the big brush right now, trying to accentuate some of those brush strokes so people can feel like they're able to dive in. Green, blowing. Let's try an experiment with something really quick. Don't know if this will work, but I'm just gonna do it on one corner because I just popped up an idea. Okay, so I'm gonna add a little bit of sparkles around the image. And by doing that, I'm taking my brush and I'm putting pressure on it and letting go. It's a very impromptu technique. think sometimes this helps bring out that feeling of dream and magic. And that's what I want. Just like them. And when this all dries, um, which could be a little bit later on in a few hours, then I will go in and add in some of that really beautiful warm coat. But this will definitely give you an idea of the inspiration that I had today. I was just super excited to lay this on the canvas and share with you all. I'll go ahead and finish the rest up today, but for now, this will give you a really just an idea of what was going on through my head this morning. And of course, I'm probably going to add just a little bit more of the highlights and a little bit more of the nuances on the facial features. But yeah, this is one of my inspirations for today. Really dreamlike, very ethereal, very innocent, and above all, very angel-like. It is all inspired by my little nephew, and just wanted to share this with you today, this morning. So thank you all for joining me today, and really, really thank you for truly, this really makes my day just painting with everyone. So until next time, I'll see you later. Bye bye.